So every one of our national park, battlefields, and historic sites are going to have special events in honor of America 250. And I even think we're going to have a UFC fight. Does anybody watch UFC, the great day in the world?
The news hit like a lightning bolt, zapping every phone and filling every timeline at once. Out of nowhere, Jon Jones, the man who swore he was finished with punching people for a living, jumped on social media and shouted that he wanted to battle Tom Aspinall on the lawn of the White House. Picture that for a second, an 8-sided cage sitting on the most famous grass in America, white columns glowing behind it, camera drones buzzing over statues, and 2 giant heavyweights pacing like lions. People froze, then exploded with questions. Is this real? Is it a stunt? Jones had walked away from the sport just weeks earlier, talking about family time and sore muscles. Now he sounded louder than ever. Sports shows looped the clip every hour. Kids made meme posters showing presidents holding up championship belts. Some fans called the idea epic.
Reaction tonight on social media after President Trump announced plans to have a UFC fight on the White House lawn. He says it will be part of a series of events to mark America's 250th anniversary next year. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the plans.
A main event miracle that would stamp a fresh chapter in UFC history. Others rolled their eyes, saying Jones was chasing spotlights, not opponents. Either way, nobody could ignore the buzz. When a superstar links the most violent sport to the most powerful address on earth, attention sticks like glue. Suddenly, every conversation ended with the same giant question. Could a cage actually stand where presidents hold press briefings? Jones's swift flip from peaceful retiree to headline hunter felt like a magician yanking off a tablecloth while the dishes stay put. Just days before, he had sounded almost gentle, saying that fighting would always be in his blood, but that it might be time to heal. Fans nodded, thinking the legend deserved rest. Then, boom, he was back, shouting for a showdown in the front yard of history. How? People asked.
Tom Aspinall, I didn't read it. I told you guys already, we'll get Aspinall versus Jones done. Jon Jones versus, the heavyweight fight will happen. Just relax, I'll announce that soon.
Injuries don't heal overnight. Minds don't change so fast. Some hosts joked that Jones must have sipped secret rocket fuel. Others guessed the truth was simpler. He missed being the sun everyone orbits. A huge, jaw-dropping challenge is like lighting a flare. It forces every eye his way. As soon as the White House entered the picture, his old, retired label started to peel like a cheap sticker. Hot take machines kicked into gear. Was he ever serious about quitting? Or did he pull a clever trick? Step away just long enough to make his comeback crash through the noise like thunder? No one could answer for sure, but everyone leaned forward, curious to see his next move.
I guess the clarifying question then is, if Dana and Hunter do come to you after this fight, the figures make sense to you, would you then be open to fighting Tom Aspinall, or are you categorically thinking, he does nothing for me, I will not fight that guy?
He does nothing for me. He does nothing for me.
Imagining a UFC cage on the White House lawn lit up minds like fireworks. Reporters compared it to Eddie Hearn's backyard boxing shows, but blown up to super size. They pictured Marines in dress uniforms standing beside the ring posts, and the American flag fluttering high above the broadcast lights. For old-school MMA watchers, the vision felt almost unreal. 3 decades back, lawmakers had scolded the sport as human cockfighting and banned it in most states. Now think about that same sport being welcomed at the nation's most secure home. It would be like skateboarding inside the Vatican, someone said. Unthinkable until it actually happens. Yet combat sports love surprising venues.
I kind of felt the writing was on the wall. I know a lot of the fans got invested in that and saying he's ducking, but he doesn't need to fight.
Boxing once turned Caesar's Palace's parking lot into a desert arena. UFC has rolled cages into giant soccer stadiums, onto beaches in Abu Dhabi, and even inside a tiny TV studio. So why not the most famous front yard in America? The moment you ask that question, you can't stop imagining the answer. Commentators couldn't either, spending entire shows mapping out camera angles and security zones. Even people who barely know MMA found themselves drawn in by the absurd yet tempting thought of roundhouse kicks landing meters from the Oval Office. Jones's shout ignited a chain reaction among other big names, like squirrels racing up the same tree. Conor McGregor fired off a grinning tweet, hinting he'd happily crash the party. Michael Chandler followed with a bold, "I'm in." Sean Strickland, never shy, joked that he'd fight a Secret Service agent if they put gloves on him. For these athletes, a White House card wouldn't just be a payday, it would be history in the making.
We have a lot of land there. We're going to build a little we're not. Dana's going to do it. Dana's great, one of a kind. Going to have a UFC fight, championship fight, full fight, like 20, 25,000 people. And we're going to do that as part of 250 also. We're going to have some incredible events, some professional events, some amateur events.
Imagine telling your future kids you once threw high kicks near the same rose garden where presidents greet world leaders. Fans instantly built fantasy lineups. Some wanted a USA versus UK theme, each American star matched with a British rival. Odds makers posted betting lines overnight, turning rumor into real wagers. Sports talk shows treated the potential roster like an NBA draft, arguing over who deserved the marquee slots. All that side chatter pumped extra oxygen into Jones's idea. Even friends who never watch MMA asked what channel they should tune to if such madness ever became real. In a single afternoon, the call-out evolved from a tweet into a roaring carnival, complete with hot takes, betting slips, and dream posters.
John Jones is probably watching this, so send him a message.
Hello, John. I have nothing against you personally, but I just think I'm better than you. I just know that I can beat you in a fight, so I'm coming for it.
While the world gawked, Tom Aspinall stayed tucked inside his gym, grinding through another day of drills. For nearly a year he had waited, holding the interim heavyweight belt and hoping to unify it. That patience tested every part of him. Imagine studying for finals all year, only to see the big exam postponed again and again. Each time Jones paused, first with injury, then with retirement, Aspinall's test date vanished. When Jones walked away, Aspinall finally looked forward to fresh matchups. Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich, maybe a super fight with Alex Pereira. Then, snap, Jones was back, and the spotlight swung away again. The Brit tried to stay calm, but frustration simmered beneath his polite words.
To beat John Jones, you need to have fast eyes, fast reactions, fast reflexes. And Stipe Miocic at 42 years old just doesn't have the reflexes anymore.
No.
That someone like a 31-year-old, I don't even think I'm in my prime yet, but almost prime fighter has.
He reminded interviewers he trains daily, fight or no fight. Still, nights grow long when you wonder if the biggest chance of your life might drift off again. Fans praised his cool head, calling him the quiet storm of the division. Coaches applauded his focus, noting that storms, once unleashed, can level mountains. Every serious observer knew one truth: Aspinall's patience, if rewarded, could explode into a performance few would forget. Analysts on podcasts pulled out old timelines like detectives studying footprints. They noticed a pattern. Each time a dangerous challenger rises, Jones finds a side door. Vacating a belt, teasing a different fight, or hinting retirement. They linked it to Tyson Fury's long, twisting dance around Oleksandr Usyk in boxing, suggesting some champions protect their brand by dodging risky tests. The White House plan, they said, shifted talk from "Will you fight Aspinall?" to "Where will you fight anyone?" By changing the stage, Jones changed the script, sliding questions about courage under a giant rug of spectacle. One radio host labeled him an attention-chasing mastermind. Another said, more kindly, that Jones understands marketing better than most senators understand law. Whether fair or harsh, these critiques stuck because the division had spun in circles for months, leaving fans dizzy. If Jones could choose any opponent yet still avoid the newest champion, was that savvy business or clear ducking? The debate raged on message boards like a bonfire fed by endless twigs. Inside the UFC rulebook, interim champions are promised first crack at the real belt when the champion heals. It's like a school pledge. You babysat the trophy so you get the big test. But whispers said Jones wanted Stipe Miocic instead, a beloved veteran who hadn't fought in years. That choice jammed Aspinall back into limbo. Commentators shouted about fairness. Why crown interim champs if their shot dissolves when wallets whisper louder than rule books? One analyst explained the math. The moment Jones walks into any octagon, the interim label disappears. Either one champion stands tall or confusion rules. Business often bends rules, though. Big-name bouts print cash and dollars shout louder than guidelines. So the heavyweight belt became a hot potato, tossed between star power and sporting order.
I bet if he's weighing 215, he would fight Tom Aspinall better than him weighing 245 pounds. In his 205 frame, he could fight Tom Aspinall better than he'd fight him at that 250 because that's not his weight class. While he didn't last long with Cyril, he didn't look as fast. He carried more weight. Cyril just did some weird stuff. And John, you don't make mistakes against John.
Fans argued whether Jones should be stripped if he refused Aspinall. Others begged for an 8-man tournament, winner take all. The louder the argument grew, the clearer one truth became. Championships need clear paths, and chaos only entertains for so long before it annoys. Aspinall opened up in one podcast, saying this last weight felt harder than rebuilding his knee. Training without a target, he explained, is like paddling a boat with no shore in sight. Every sunrise, he laced gloves, drilled takedowns, and sparred rounds. Yet he had no poster, no date, no promised pay. Bills still came. Doubt still whispered. He admitted some nights he lay awake, wondering if his big moment would fade into rumor. Yet he stayed respectful, saying he understood Jones's choices. "I just want the title," he repeated, like a mantra. That simple, steady hunger made fans root for him harder. Young fighters saw a role model, a champion who keeps his cool even in foggy uncertainty. Coaches called him a professional's professional. He might not light Twitter on fire, but every serious gym rat nodded, knowing quiet grind often beats loud hype when the cage door finally shuts. Far beyond two men trading punches, the whole story is about legacy control. Jones carries a history book on his shoulders. Record defenses, highlight reels, pound-for-pound crowns. One more flashy victory on a world stage lawn could stamp him forever greatest. Aspinall symbolizes fresh blood, a heavyweight who moves like a middleweight and finishes fights quick. The UFC faces a crossroads. Lean on Jones's proven star power, even if it slows the division, or bet on a new era with Aspinall roaring forward. Sponsors, broadcasters, and gamblers all have opinions. Fans, though, crave simpler math. Who's best right now? A White House fight might solve that, or muddy it. If Jones wins there, his legend balloons like a hot air balloon over the monument. If Aspinall wins, the torch passes in a setting so iconic it might break social media. Either outcome rewrites future posters because the victor would wear not only gold, but memories of the most unique venue ever attempted. Planning a White House brawl is far trickier than booking a normal arena. Secret Service agents would study every inch, mapping escape routes and blast-proof fencing. Event workers would need background checks weeks ahead. The Octagon itself might require a special platform to protect delicate grass that gets replaced every spring. Noise rules, light permits, and crowd limits could shift hour by hour, depending on political schedules.
So every one of our national park, battlefields, and historic sites are going to have special events in honor of America 250, and I even think we're going to have a UFC fight. We're going to have, does anybody watch UFC, the great day in the world? We're going to have a UFC fight. We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this on the grounds of the White House.
Where do fighters warm up? Inside a tent or a temporary gym tucked behind tall hedges? How many tickets could be sold and at what sky-high price? Would VIP seats include senators in suits and movie stars in sunglasses? Who sponsors a show that sits so close to national power? Fast food giants, crypto companies, or maybe a patriotic charity? If rain pours, do they slap a dome over the cage or roll it inside a press room? Each practical question spawns 10 more. The sheer maze of red tape could scare off normal promoters, but the UFC loves moonshot challenges. The harder the task, the bigger the bragging rights when it happens. Succeeding here would prove the company can stage a fight almost anywhere, from desert islands to the doorstep of the Oval Office. At the heart of everything lies the same spark that drives all great sports stories, a clash of desire, doubt, and daring dreams. The White House call-out mixes impossible visuals with genuine competitive tension. If the bout happens, millions will watch not only for punches, but for the symbol of a once-banned sport shaking hands with national pride. If it fizzles, it enters the museum of fights that never were, next to Fedor versus Lesnar and Khabib versus Tony. Either way, the saga teaches lessons about hype, patience, and the razor-thin line between epic and empty. Kids reading the headlines learn how one bold sentence online can spin entire industries into motion or chaos. Adults remember that every superstar's whim echoes through dozens of careers, training camps, and bank accounts. And all of us, no matter our fandom level, get swept into that same what-if swirl. That shared curiosity is why combat stories grab hearts so fast. Whether Jon Jones truly walks through those White House gates or not, his call-out has already stamped itself on MMA legend, proving once again that in fighting, the wildest chapter is often the one nobody saw coming.